It is interesting how my perception of stories changes the moment I start thinking about them, and especially the moment I begin articulating my thoughts out loud. The most prominent example would be the Hordes of the Underdark, a DLC for the Neverwinter Nights game that I have idolized quite a lot, thinking that it was a great successor of the original campaign, a proper continuation of the story, and a fulfilling finale that brought great closure to some of the characters that I've become so attached to from the original campaign. But ever since I started doing these videos, after I went through the Neverwinter Nights and the DLCs, my opinion slightly changed. Now, even though I still think that the Hordes of the Underdark is a decent DLC, I am not exactly on board with the story, and I'm absolutely not on board with the way they handled Lady Aribeth. And on the other hand, I became much more appreciative of the original campaign, which already was my favorite game of all time without question. Even after so many playthroughs, I still managed to notice little details that made me respect the achievements of the developers even under the harsh conditions that supposedly plagued the development of the original campaign. So with this change, I am more on board with basically using my own endings as I do for Viconia from the Baldur's Gate and for the whole Mass Effect saga that I've just made up for myself. They are my own headcanon. They rot somewhere deep in the swamps of my memory and resurface every time I replay these games. So thanks to this effort to improve my English and focus more on the positives, on things that I genuinely like, I found out something new, something genuine, and that definitely makes me happy. So at least partial success achieved, I guess. Although this was supposed to be just a side note prefacing another part of my protagonist's prattle. So in regards of that, I wanted to take a closer look at the types of characters, namely protagonists, for now that I have the knowledge and the capability to portray convincingly without just copying characters and twisting them to my purpose. So instead of trying and failing miserably to create a protagonist who is this tactical genius or a mathematician or some scientist in general or someone who heavily relies on a weapon that I've never ever held in my hands in real life and thus have no knowledge of how it actually works in a fight. I just don't think that I have the imagination and theoretical knowledge to pull any of these off convincingly enough that would make me happy and that I would enjoy as the reader. So instead of that, I should probably focus on creating protagonists with the tools that I do have at my disposal and maybe attempt some side characters with those traits and slowly build up the experience to pull it off on characters that do not require as much detail as the protagonist does, and focusing on characters that I can believe myself. I do have some freedom in this matter since I do want to set up a setting that is different from our world, that is its own universe with its own rules, but I still think that there should be some sort of a base that I would build upon then in terms of the abilities the characters possess, and I should have at least a minimum amount of on-hand knowledge, experience, and firm vision as the author to create a character that would not make all these mistakes that only a complete newbie would make if they were in the same situation. All these seasoned hunters and fighters in some stories that just make absolutely no sense, use moves that simply cannot be used in a real situation. It's as if I tried to write this chess story and I have no idea how to actually play chess, which openings to use, and I would attempt to portray this grandmaster type of character. I would find it ridiculous as the reader. And since I'm writing for myself, for that one specific reader, I do feel that I should stick to things that I know, even though I would like to create the setting that allows a certain degree of freedom, using things that are completely new and different from our world, techniques, skills, and abilities that make sense in that setting, but still preserve a certain degree of realism in some of these traits. TLDR, make a character that makes basic sense, is what I'm going to strive towards. Keeping the ambitions low till I gather some more experience and expand my imagination, hopefully. Now, the rapid arrows. We see Speedy pushing an empty baby stroller, admonishing the rest of the club members who are laughing at him, telling them that it's a base for a certain vehicle. It's called Stragula, and it's basically a desk on two wheels with a long pole attached to it. One person sits on the desk and two others pull the vehicle by the handbars attached to the pole, and kids would use these to race each other in the real world. This is based on an actual experience of Jaroslav Oglar, the author of The Rapid Arrows, and the rest of the club agrees. They are excited to participate in something that appeared in the Herald, and thus decides to challenge another club, Happy Philistines, to a race on these Stragulas. When the vehicles and the track is ready, the race is about to start, and the Happy Philistines just about make it through this deadly curve right above a large puddle of water in a decent enough time. When it's time for the rapid arrows, Speedy, who wrestled the position of the rider from Redcap, who is supposedly much lighter, but he insisted, and in the deadly curve, unfortunately, their stragula fell apart, and Speedy got another involuntary outdoor bath, lamenting that he should have came in a spacesuit instead, and thus the Happy Philistines won this race. Next time, Yirka and Yindra are discussing that most clubs are hunting for these scout badges or Bobrik little beavers, and the rapid arrows are behind on this trend, so during the club meeting they propose to start this activity, and when everyone agrees, they decide to start with the badge of courage. The hunt requires them to descend deep into the basement of Yarka's house and make a mark on the wall. There alone in complete darkness. They draw lots, and the first one to attempt this is Yindra. When he begins his descent deep below, the rest of the club members on the surface are trying to entertain themselves until he is done, with Yarka and Redcap performing a pretend boxing match with Speedy commentating and Mirek admonishing them. During one of the more serious clashes of these fighters, they push Speedy, who was leaning against a wall right next to a wooden wash tub, which results in said tub crashing down the stairs straight onto the returning unsuspecting Indra, still terrified from his ordeal. The tub buries him underneath itself, with him screaming that he's being murdered alive by some nightmare. And only after he's rescued by the rest of the boys, Mirek tells him that he hunted the Scout Badge of Courage with honors, and Speedy notes that for the rest of the attempts, the washtub should probably stay in the basement just in case. And that's where I'm going to stop. The intro was longer than it should have been, but I don't think it was completely meaningless. And next time, more protagonists, more rapid arrows, more barely comprehensible English, and yeah, that's it for this video, and more adventures next time.